Hey there, this is a build guide and also a guide to boss one-shots using Vex, snipers, bleed, and powerful underbarrels. This build has been made in collaboration with Ichor. I am also shouting out Lazy Data and Arachnica for having previously played and crafted sniper setups with similar concepts. Also another shout out to Ketchins for being the first around that I've seen play the prismatic Ichor variant of these sniping setups. Everyone's links will be below. There's also a detailed Mobalytics written guide for the build. This build has variants, and they will be addressed in the video. Therefore, the video structure is a little different than usual. If you'd rather just jump to what interests you, use the chapters below. So, there are 4 main factors to achieving boss one-shots on Vex using sniper rifles, underbarrels, or powerful base damages in general. The first one of those is bleed. It is essential for this. Bleed damage scales based off of your damage dealt on the hit that triggers it. This means bleed can benefit from some specific damage modifiers twice, because they will be scaling the impact damage, which results in a larger bleed, and then those will also apply to the bleed itself. These modifiers are namely skill damage, kinetic damage, out damage, and some types of crit damage. This interaction is commonly known as double dipping. Our second factor is bloodshot. This skill, even at just 1 out of 5 points, provides instant value to just about any gun build. That's because it gives us access to skill damage on any gunshot impact, therefore enabling skill damage double dips on bleed. The reason we'll be going for 1 out of 5 bloodshot and non-maxed is simple. Bloodshot adds to imp and on-shot damage boosts, yet it is not itself boosted by those. When working with high base damages, the added value of max bloodshot, even at 10 out of 5, can become minuscule in contribution to our final damage. The main thing the skill does for us then is the access to skill damage on our guns. The third factor is prismatic Ichor. This one is optional, however it can add a lot of consistency, especially when you do not have perfect gear. It may also have the theoretical highest peak damage, but that's a bit at the mercy of RNG depending on which element you get. This skill will create a damage over time effect based on your already high bleed procs. This dot it creates will last 6 seconds, which is currently enough time to kill anything in this game. The inner workings of this skill are quite messy to explain without pretty much a full video just about it, but for this setup it is enough to know that increasing bleed damage will also increase prismatic Ichor damage. I love any excuse to use this skill, so I'm happy to recommend it. The fourth factor is the weapon. The short of it is, the higher the base damage, the higher the potential for big bleeds and big dots. For sniper rifles, this means Picton, a purple rarity Order sniper, is the general best choice. But that's far from the only thing in this game with high base damage. There's evil lurking under those gun barrels. Spread launcher, knife launcher, big rocket, Oscar mic, turbine cleaver, tasers, beam tossers, and the list goes on. All of those are good choices for what's being done here. So let's move on to our skill trees. Our constant tree here is green, so let's start with that. This is the bare essentials layout for green tree. It has all the main things we need, and further investment will only happen if there are points left. Leeching attunement gives us sustain, utility, and then damage through Blood's power. Blood Ladder is one of our pillar skills. Bleed is extremely strong and necessary for one-shots of the game's highest health bars through what we're doing here. Material components is very loaded for us. The kinetic damage will boost our impacts and bleeds, meaning it double dips. The kinetic status damage will then also apply to bleed. Ars Arcana will boost bloodshot gunshots and bleed damage. Consequentially, this causes bleed to double dip skill damage when it triggers on a bloodshot. 1 out of 5 bloodshot is our ultimate enabler. It lets skill damage apply to our gunshots, which bleed will then double dip. Essence Leech is simply good food for Blood's power. Blood's power is a bonus element that gives us a ton of extra damage, will inherit the skill tag from Bloodshots and can apply its own bleed. Simply excellent skill. For Green Tree augments, you have Grave Harvest for mobbing, Geist Wave for certain bosses where the swap is worth the time. And these are the essentials of Green Tree done. This is where you decide on your build variant, which are the following. Blood Fang, which has trouble with you, and he will be grabbing enemies' attention so you have a cozier time sniping. Veinchant, which focuses on maximum impact and bleed damage, using mostly Incarnate. If seeing the biggest bleed number possible, even though not always, makes your brain feel good, then this is the one. Then we have Ichor Veinchant, which uses Prismatic Ichor for increased consistency on one-shots. The damage is excellent and it is significantly friendlier to imperfect gear stats. And finally, Recon, which maximizes crit chance through the use of Spectres and Coven for maximum consistency, being able to reach 100% crit chance by throwing a single knife, as long as you have a 10% crit chance roll on your class mod. For the Bloodfang setup, we move to Red Tree and use Phase Familiar with Hexus Nexus as an augment for aggro relief. We grab Grave Sustenance for Phase Familiar uptime, and Blood is Magic for more impact and bleed damage, since this is actually skill damage. Vorpal Fiends grants us 25% crit damage, which applies to our gunshots and bleed crits. Finally, for the last 5 points, you can pick between investing in Trouble Sustain so he survives a bit better, or you can just spam Now with Caffeine during mobbing if he dies. Some things will nuke Trouble regardless of you investing in regen, so that choice is really up to you. Alternatively, you can invest in Sanguine Fiends for a similar effect, or even grab skill crit chance through King Mind in Green Tree, which will give us more gunshot and bleed crit chance. For the Veinchant setup, we also go down Red Tree, but instead use Incarnate with Grave Harvest for mobbing and Geistwave for bosses where it's worth the swap time. We grab Enchantment for some increased impact damage, Blood is Magic for impact and bleed damage, and Vorpal Fiends for impact and bleed crit damage. The final 5 points go into King Mind for more impact crit chance and bleed crit chance. For the Ichor Veinchant setup, we instead go down Blue Tree. We still use Incarnate with Grave Harvest for mobbing, and Geistwave for bosses where it's worth the swap time. In Blue Tree, we grab 3 Idle Hands for smoother reloads, True and Cold Iron just to move further. Portents of Suffering is an easy grab for our bleed and Ichor damage. Grave Fiends will mostly be on for mobbing, but it's useful regardless. Bleed double dips this modifier. Finally, we grab Prismatic Ichor. This skill can carry your boss one-shots and adds a high amount of consistency to them. A bigger bleed will spawn a bigger Ichor. The Ichor procs off of only the first instance of bleed you get, that being your base hit or Blood is Power. It won't base itself off of the 2 added together. Still, that is more than enough. For the Recon setup, in Green Tree we grab Target Prescience for increased impact crit chance, alongside King Mind for increased impact and bleed crit chance. In Red Tree we grab Blood is Magic, which will boost our impact and bleed damage. In Blue Tree we grab Idle Hands for smoother gameplay, and the remaining 2 points go either in Cold Iron or Sanguine Fiends, that's really up to you. That gives us access to Coven, which will allow us to get 30% crit chance on boss fights by summoning Spectres. Even if they die, this bonus stays up for its duration. Coven paired with Target Prescience and King Mind alongside a crit knife can let us reach 100% crit chance, and the Spectres themselves are also really good at stacking Contamination. So this is a good way to reach consistency for these one-shots even though we'll have lower damage, and is especially helpful against enemies that don't have crit spots. For our specializations, we have 3 mainstays. The Best Defense, which applies to all we do when bleed will double dip it. A Hone Mind, which will apply to our bloodshot crits and be double dipped on bleeds. In the Zone is a very significant boost which can be stacked naturally during mobbing and intentionally for one-shots. If you hate ADSing, you might want to replace this, just expect lower damage. We then have a Flex slot. For mobbing, Now with Caffeine is great for cooldowns, especially if using Trouble. Contamination is the second choice for bleed consistency. For bossing, this can be I Am a Gun for a decent damage increase, or Contamination for bleed consistency. As for the actual point distribution after you get the skills you need, prioritize Killer, followed by Brute, and then it's really up to you after that. I'm probably going for Sharpshooter here. For more details on specialization combos, check out the written guide. So let's move on to our weapons. The actual layout is up to you, I'll just give you the guidelines on what you can use. My first slot is a comfortable mobbing sniper. I like truck with the highest base damage possible, or shotgun mode Daedalus underbarrel for a lot of consistency during mobbing. The big rocket underbarrel is also pretty cool for some one-shots. Targ license impact round parts are also great on it, though they reduce projectile speed. My second slot is a powerful underbarrel like Spread Launcher or Oscar Mic, but you can bring any you like. This could also be another of the snipers like Barstow Ballista or Fisheye. On my third slot, I like bringing Ardor kill drones. They can be of massive help should you end up overwhelmed in mobbing. TDR support drones are also kind of an option if you wish. Those can heal trouble if you're using that build variant. On my fourth slot, I carry my boss killer of choice. The Picton Ardor Sniper with a Targ license impact round part seems to be the highest base damage these Ardor snipers can achieve. I don't know how high the ceiling goes, but I think this one is on the higher end. This is the perfect sniper for one-shots. For bosses where crit spots and aiming are too much of an issue, you can just bring strong underbarrels or rely on crit knife for more consistency. As for the rest of our gear, for rep kit, in terms of general use and bossing, you definitely want an EMP triple bypass. For specifically bossing, if you find an Ardor rep kit with EMP and Enrage, that can be very nice, since bleed double dips and rages damage increase. For ordnance, crit knife helps us with bossing consistency, especially when there are no crit spots. Slippy is a great tool for mobbing and dealing with vile crystal enemies. Firepot with a crit chance part I found nice for general use and for stacking contamination should you choose to use that. As for our class mods, in terms of general running about and mobbing, Undead Eye is nice because of the Bloodshot retriggers. The skill rolls are kind of whatever, though I guess prioritize Bloodshot points. Kinetic damage or skill damage are the stat rolls you care about here. Scion is great in general and simply excellent for bossing. Look for as much Bloodletter as you can find, with the rest being on either material components or leeching attunement. The stat rolls you can look for here are kinetic damage, skill damage, status crit chance, and skill crit chance. All of those are good rolls that can help either damage or consistency, sometimes both. Teen Witch is a nice fallback option. In theory, it can also have the highest impact damage for certain things, but it won't have the biggest bleeds at all. Look for as many points in blood as magic as possible, and then kinetic or skill damage on the stats. For our shield, Guardian Angel with triple imp is our main shield of choice here. The fast recharge and delay are perfect for using class mods like Undead Eye and Scion. Other options include What's for Dinner and Protean Cell. The Protean Cell bonus shock damage applies to bleed itself, which can be funny for some specific things like melting Origo. It's quite a hassle to use though, especially if you're also trying to set up a one-shot with a sniper, but it can be fun to mess around with. Either way, the main shield choice you care about here is the Amp Guardian Angel. As for our enhancements, these are really dictated by what you intend to use and for what. You have to apply some of your own judgment here. Jacob's Multi-Strike and Quintain are nice for many weapons and some underbarrels. I like using Quintain while mobbing with the truck. Other enhancements that have power shot on them are great for the Pictons. The second choice for them would be a Targ Headringer. Targ enhancements like Big Banger, Pumper, and other combinations that have Headringer on them are all good if you have Targ licensed parts on your weapons, and are also good for some underbarrels. In terms of stat rolls, you're mainly looking for gun and gun type damage and gun type crit damage, alongside any other utility rolls. For our firmware, the setup I have here is for a general do anything approach, but you can definitely specialize. Tier 2 Deadeye gives us 25% crit damage on our impacts, and that will further boost our bleeds. Tier 2 High Caliber gives us 10% on shotgun damage, which will multiply our imp. Tier 1 Heating Up is mainly here for smoothing out my reloads, but this can definitely be Tier 1 God Killer for boss one-shotting, which although is only 10% damage, will still be double dipped by bleed. There are different firmware combinations that can be run for different purposes. You can pause and see them on the picture that I'm showing on screen right now. So how's the gameplay? Well, for mobbing, it's simple. Open with your action skill, then pop rep kits here and there for imp and bloodshot access, especially against stronger enemies. Use our favorite sniper plus enhancement combination, alongside the Undead Eye class mod for consistency on triggering bloodshots. As for bossing, choose between sniping or underbarrels. There's a good selection of snipers that do alright for bossing, but if you want one-shots, the Ardor Picton is usually the choice. Picton can be charged up for what amounts to a massive base damage, which will then be scaled by our amp and on-shot boosts. You'll want to use your debuffs like Geist Wave and Crit Knife smartly to maximize their uptime, and of course hit critical hits. Those will help in causing larger bleeds, and Knife in specific can help with actually triggering the bleeds. The status chance rolls are also relevant here, though I am unsure if the enhancement gun status chance even applies to bleed. From some testing against contamination, it seemed not to. Either way, the class mod status chance seems to apply. It should be noted that if you want pure consistency on farms, the underbarrels like Spread Launcher and Mike are less RNG reliant on needing bleed procs. Others like Tasers provide consistent damage and bleeds. But of course, getting the sniper kills feels very satisfying, so you have some choices here. And that is it for this one. Feel free to ask any questions and consider checking out the links below. Have a nice day, and thank you for watching.
You play here, pathetic